The research I share is dynamic leader modeling for self-organization, crowd evacuation simulation. The role of the leader in the self-organization crowd has a significant influence on the crowd evacuation when an emergency occurs. When an emergency happens, it is challenging to model realistic crowd evacuation behaviors, because multiple hard-to-measure factors have to be considered, like personality, emotions, and behavioral decision-making mechanisms. According to the common sense in life, at the early stage of emergencies, crowd evacuation is more dependent on the individuals on the scene rather than external guardians. However, current crowd evacuation models either ignore the leadership characteristics of pedestrians or predefine an invariable leader identity. So, we proposed the dynamic leader role model, introducing the leader-follower relationship from sociology into graphics. Conforming to people's cognition, DLRM illustrates the leaders generating and changing in evacuation, providing a more effective dimension for estimating group evacuation behaviors and influences. Who will lead and who will follow? We designed the dynamic leader role model as shown in the figure. The processing can be divided into three stages: the trigger, formation, and feedback stage. In trigger stage, an individual obtains location of exits, number of hazards from circumstances, through hearing and vision when an emergency occurs. Combining such information with prior knowledge, the individual further forms his comprehensive cognition about the context environment. It opens the next stage, the formation stage. Individual interaction, relation recognition, collective endorsement makes up central of the formation stage. The former discusses the personal tendency from the psychological level. For instance, a responsible and extroverted person is more inclined to become a leader. The latter two illustrates the external process of role shaping. The person turns into a leader or follower over this stage. Do, for example, person's role is invariable during fleeing his life. Wills come true reinforce personal tendency. Meanwhile, interaction between people carries weight on role modeling. We define this as a feedback process, which consists of positive and negative feedback. Accordingly, it gives an accurate description of people's role switching mechanism. That's our model's main framework. Individual internalization is a subjective identified tendency of an individual to become a leader or a follower. This paper selects the ocean personality model, widely used in computer graphics, to represent personality. Accordingly, the individual leadership tendency and the individual dominance tendency are defined as function leadership and function dominance above. After the step of individual leadership, all the individuals will be broken down into three types, including dominant leaders, egalitarian leaders, and followers. We adjusted the population distribution using a normal distribution. Crucially, most individuals are influenced by social interaction with others. Such social interaction among individuals comes into being the relational recognition. It refers to whether an individual supports the neighbor one to be a leader. Furthermore, this step is iterative over time. For instance, if an individual can form a stable leader-follower relationship successfully, it will enhance his identity. On the contrary, his identity becomes unstable. As shown in the figure above, dominant individual A climbs as a leader, while dominant individual B climbs as a follower. Individual A's leadership status is recognized by the individual B, and individual A also recognized individual B's follower identity. The two form a stable leader-follower relationship. Collective endorsement comes from multiple sources. It may come from other individuals, such as a senior manager, appointing a team member as the leader, and other team members will collectively identify with the leadership status guaranteed by the senior manager. After 3 steps in formation stage, the process of building his leadership identity is iterated. Construction process of individual identity is shown above. Individual A tends to be a leader in individual internalization, while individual B tends to be a follower. When the two individuals form a reciprocal relationship in relational recognition, the identity is positively recognized and strengthened. Finally, the identities of leaders and followers are determined in collective endorsements. These patterns of leader and follower relationship form the initial group leadership structures. These leadership structures may be stabilized over time. Also, they will change such that a leader switches its role with a follower at some point. Actually, the individual will carry over the past leader tendency in the next identity construction. For example, the individuals who became leaders last time will play a positive role in the construction of leadership identity this time. The feedback formula is defined as follows. This paper improves on the traditional social force model and uses the extended social force model to simulate the movement of the crowd. The social force model is a force model based on Newton's second law, including the attraction of a target to an individual, the repulsive force between individuals, and the repulsive force of an obstacle to an individual, which is defined as above. We improve on the traditional social force model by adding the leader's attraction to the follower. In fire, earthquake, and other dangerous situations, individuals will form a leader-follower structure through the above stages. The attraction of the follower is no longer just the attraction of the target to the individual, but also affected by the leader's attraction to him, and the leader is only attracted by the target's attraction to himself. The attractiveness of the leader to the individual is defined as above. This article uses Unity to build 2 simulation scenarios. One is a large shopping mall with many exits and complex roads, and the other is a narrow indoor corridor scene with a small number of entries. Different simulations are carried out by adjusting the personality distribution of the group. Since the shopping mall scene is too large, it is not easy to conduct the experimental observation. We have added a small map in the upper left corner. Press the M key to zoom in and zoom out, so you can observe the overall trend. The large shopping mall scene has 200 simulated individuals, and we initialize the individual personalities using a normal distribution function with a mean of 0.5 and a standard deviation of 0.25. The simulation trajectory of the individual is shown above, where the black trajectory indicates that the individual escapes alone, and the trajectory of other colors represent different leader-follower groups. The corresponding escape heat map is shown above. Individuals would form multiple leader-follower structures during the escape process. Although the starting points of each group are inconsistent, the number of safe exits is inevitable. Some groups have the same goal point and will eventually converge into a large group in the absence of external intervention. A small number of individuals do not perceive the extent of danger in time because they are far away from the danger point. At the same point, there is no individual nearby to become a leader, so they can only find their own way, and the individual escapes alone. It can rely on its cognition of the overall environment, so the black trajectory is more complicated than the color trajectory, which prolongs the overall escape time. From the experimental results, leaders and followers have the highest escape rate when notified by the outside world, and the more complex the environment, the smaller the individual escape rate. This paper uses the small scenarios to observe the stability of leadership structures under different personalities. The 10 individuals were initialized with varying personality factors, and the number of leaders formed during the simulation was different. When the leader leads the group to the wrong exit, affected by the feedback of the group relationship, some individuals will leave the group, and the stability of the group will be affected, as shown in the figure's red track line. In this paper, the stability of the population is observed under 4 different initialization conditions. A. The personality factor of the individual satisfies phi I equals n 0.5 dot 0.25. B. Individual initialized personality factors satisfies weak dominance and strong leadership. C. Individual initialized personality satisfaction is strong dominance and strong leadership. D. Individual initialized personality satisfies weak dominance and weak leadership. From the experimental results, B and C performs better. Thanks for your attention.